Okay, I'm back and I've been putting in the hours this time for this video to answer once and for all, what are the best football movies of all time? So I've been grinding the tape, rewatching, or in some cases watching for the first time, any and every football movie I could think of to create these rankings. Let's first start with some movies that didn't make the final list. Number one, Wildcats. Hadn't seen this one before. Goldie Hawn coaching an inner city team. It was fun enough, but it's not going to make a top 10 of greatest football movies ever. Necessary Roughness, another pretty old movie, has got some cool cameos from NFL players. Dick Butkus, Herschel Walker, Jim Kelly, Evander Holyfield randomly got thrown in there as well. It's kind of like a poor man's Replacements. It's funny enough, but it hasn't aged brilliantly either. Both of the Longest Yards movies, the original one, the remake with Adam Sandler, they're both pretty good. I like both of those, but they don't make my top 10. The Express, movie about the life of Ernie Davis, a former Browns running back and the first African-American to win the Heisman Trophy. North Dallas 40, Varsity Blues, I never really loved as a movie. I still don't think that makes it. Those are ones that don't make the list. Next, there's some movies that I don't really consider football movies, but they do feature some football. Let's call them football adjacent. Jerry Maguire. Nobody really brings that up as a football movie, I think because it isn't fundamentally, but it does feature a ton of NFL stuff. So, you could definitely make the argument. And if you did, I think Jerry Maguire would have to rank pretty high on any list. Ace Ventura. Clearly not a football movie, even though it does feature Dan Marino, Laces Out, the Dolphin, Snowflake, The Last Boy Scout, Bruce Willis, one of the Wayans brothers, I forget which one exactly. Again, there's some football in that. There's also one of the craziest scenes that's taken place in any movie ever during a football game, but it's not a football movie. It's just got some football in it. Lastly, don't even think about expecting to see the movie Draft Day in these rankings. It's by far the worst football movie ever made and one of the most painful movies I have ever sat through. And I forced myself to see it a second time for this just in case I had been too harsh. To hell with that movie. Draft Day is the worst movie and does not feature in this rankings at all. All right, let's start our countdown top 10. Number 10, The Waterboy. I find Adam Sandler movies kind of hit or miss. I think his comedy, his style of humor, like sometimes it works. I love Happy Gilmore. I think it can be really good. Sometimes I find it a bit grating. And this is one of those movies. So, if you love Adam Sandler, you're going to have this way higher than I do. For me, it's just the number 10 on the rankings. But it is one of the few comedies I think that does work when it comes to a football movie. So, number 10, it is The Waterboy with Adam Sandler. Number 9, The Program. This was one that a ton of people gave me recommendations for. It had been on my list for years to watch, and I just hadn't gotten around to it, and this pushed me to do it. It felt like a college version to me of Any Given Sunday. And I think it had the same problems. Its age relative to Any Given Sunday, I don't think helped it. There's a lot wrong with the movie. But the longer I did watch it, the more it started to grow on me. I did start to get into it towards the end. Outside of a couple of people in the movie, the acting felt kind of rough. Some of the elements were just absolutely crazy. Again, I think a little bit like Any Given Sunday. The inner monologue thing from Jefferson, one of the main protagonists, was kind of weird. But, it ends up fun enough. It's not a bad movie. Number 8, Little Giants. Fun kids movie. All Rick Moranis movies, they're of a certain kind of level. They're of a certain kind of style. You know what you're going to get, and it's exactly one of those. It just involves football this time. Ed O'Neill is great as well. Obviously, there's the annexation of Puerto Rico, one of the most famous kind of made up plays in it. Lateral's in it. I'm on board. John Madden with an awesome cameo. That's always going to boost you up the rankings. Just an easy watch, a feel-good movie, great kids movie. Love that. Well worth number 8 overall, Little Giants. Number 7, We Are Marshall. I think this gets overlooked a lot. It's a great movie. Obviously, it's about more than just football. It's the story of the Marshall plane crash that killed almost the entire football program, and then the job done to keep that program alive for the following season. My only real criticism about this movie is it's very Hollywood. Just, too much, a bit too cheesy across the board. Now, look, I have sympathy for that, right? This is a very difficult needle to thread for them, given the subject matter. They needed the buy-in of everybody involved. You know, they had to kind of portray it in a certain light, but I think it does suffer for that. Number 7, We Are Marshall. Number 6, Any Given Sunday. I've always been kind of torn on Any Given Sunday. Al Pacino's speech, it's one of the finest monologues in movie history. Forget sports movies, forget football movies, any movie. It's an incredible speech. And there's some great action sequences. You know, they've got legit sort of roles, not just cameos, but legit like acting roles within the movie for guys like LT and Jim Brown. I think that gives it a lot of kudos, a lot of legitimacy. But the thing that a lot of people praise the movie for, realism, I always find kind of crazy. It strikes me as wildly unrealistic as a movie in a bunch of different ways. It feels more like a caricature of the NFL to me, more than an actual representation of it. Maybe, you know, there were times in NFL history where it looked like that, but I don't really feel like they've been particularly recent. Number 5, Rudy. I'd seen this years ago as a kid, and I rewatched it now for this rankings. I was expecting to find it too much like the movie equivalent of a Hallmark card, you know, just way too sick and cheesy. It is sappy, it's saccharine, it's over sentimental, it's hackneyed, it's all those things. It shouldn't work, but somehow it does. I have zero attachment to Notre Dame, no connection to any of its mystique, you know, all the stuff that the movie builds up. But the movie still hits. I think Rudy's a fantastic movie. Number 5 overall on this list. Number 4, Invincible. This is a cool story. It was kind of like a reality show before its time. The story of Vince Papale, who made the Eagles through an open tryout when Coach Dick Vermeil first took over the team when when Papale was 30 years old. You know, of course, Hollywood couldn't resist one-upping real life and inventing a touchdown that he never actually scored on a play that he did force a fumble on. But it's a really good movie. Okay, Mark Wahlberg's in it. People find Mark Wahlberg hit and miss. If you like Wahlberg, you like the movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it does a nice job. Some of the film sequences are fantastic. Some of the kind of CGI that they build into it is really well done as well. They don't go too much for it. I think that's a really, really good movie and radically underrated when you start asking for lists of the top football movies. Number 3, The Replacements. I'm an absolute sucker for this movie. The characters are great. They're all like exaggerated caricatures, like a cartoon, but every little backstory, you know, outlined in like 20 seconds by Gene Hackman in the movie, it's perfect. Whether it's Footsteps Falco from the bowl game, Clifford Franklin who can't catch, Fumiko the sumo, Nigel Gruff the kicker, and Gene Hackman just pulls it all together. Pat Summerall, John Madden cameos covering the games. I think that really helps. It sounds like football that way. We all knew those guys as the voice of football, real football in the NFL. So even when it's all kind of made up for this and invented, it works because you have Summerall and John Madden. It adds this layer of realism over the cartoon, and it makes it feel like a movie that really works. I love The Replacements. Number 3 movie of all time. Number 2, Remember the Titans. Obviously, this is so much more than a football movie as well, you know, about a much more serious topic than football. Racial integration in the Deep South. It doesn't get much heavier than that, but it does show the ability of, you know, football and a locker room to bridge divides and unite people in a world that's way too often divided. Denzel Washington obviously is awesome, but so is Will Patton, Coach Yost, and several of the players. I think this also has, bonus points for a team lining up in shotgun, seen as some sort of newfangled witchcraft at some point during the game. Shows you how long ago the time we're talking about was.
Shotgun. Who they think they are, the New York Jets?
Remember the Titans is a great football movie, but only number 2 on my list. Number 1, the best football movie of all time is Friday Night Lights. To me, this feels the most real of all of them. It's got like the thinnest veneer of Hollywood put over the top of it. And it's one of the very few movies that I think may be better than the book it's actually based on. It does such a good job of showing the crazy pressure of high school football on these kids, right? These teenagers, and how all-encompassing football is in a place like West Texas. It's got legit tragedy in it, the tragedy of Boobie Miles, who, you know, even people that don't know that much about football know the name Boobie Miles and what it meant. It's not a Hollywood ending, you know, like some of these other movies. It doesn't end well. They lose the game, right? Spoiler alert, but they lose the game at the death. Unlike a lot of movies, it sort of focuses on the failure, not the success. And there's renewal. Like the end is so powerful. The sequence where they're changing the names on the depth chart and you're seeing this rebirth of the football program. And then the only sort of positivity at the end was the closing credits giving you the line that next year's team was the state championship team, the one that you expected to see in this movie, because otherwise, why would they be making the movie? Didn't happen until the year after. This year's team failed. It came up short. Next year's team was the success. The football sequences really work, which you can't say about every movie. I don't know if it's because they're really short clips or if they're sort of done from tight angles. They just give you glimpses rather than full wide plays, but really worked well. Some cool cameos in it. Roy Williams, the old wide receiver, is in there as a coach of Dallas Carter. Ty Law, I think, was a wide receiver in there for a Dallas Carter team as well. Anyway, you put it all together. I think Friday Night Lights is the best football movie of all time. It's a great TV show as well, but I think the movie is way better. And of course, the book. One of the few things where book, movie, TV show, they're all good. I would watch them all. I would read the book. Great story, great movie, the best football movie of all time. Let me know in the comments what you think the best football movies of all time. Tell me your rankings. Show me where I got it wrong. Hit me with everything you got. These are my definitive rankings for the best football movies of all time. And Draft Day, the worst movie of all time.